You can go back and go on YouTube and look up a guy by the name of Mo Norman. Mo Norman was very interesting. He was a little different in how he approached things, but he had his way of doing things. And he's probably the straightest hitter in the history of the game. I mean, he would sit there and hit shot after shot after shot right down the middle. So YouTube, Mo Norman. He was from Canada, and he would hit hundreds upon hundreds of balls every day until almost like his hands would bleed. He'd wrap cloths around them and keep hitting. He was a little different, eccentric, so to speak. He wore long sleeve shirts all the time, even in the sun, but that protected him from the sun, which was actually pretty smart. But he just approached things a little different. But awesome golfer. They just did things a little different. And then you look up Lee Trevino, one of the greatest ball strikers ever, really different. And you can look up guys like a Freddie Couples or a Orville Moody, who actually had a closed stance. They called him Mr. X, I believe that was him. And he would hit big hook shots. So a little different. Everybody has their own way. So it's up to you to go out and experiment and find out which one works best for you. And then we can tweak it to help it. You hit it maybe a little bit better. Okay, trivia today. So we only got a few of you on here, so everybody can go ahead and unmute themselves. Now, the record is 8. Okay, the record's 8. You don't even know what record I'm talking about, but the record is 8. So I'm just letting you know right now, because I expect you guys all to be able to just destroy that record. Trivia question number 1, and try to go one at a time if you can. Trivia question number 1. Name a superhero or supervillain that's named after a bug. Here we go.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Blue Beetle.
Blue Beetle.
Black
I
Widow.
gotta look up this. Who?
Black Widow.
Black Widow.
Wasp.
Wasp.
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man. Are we stuck at 5? Give me a superhero or supervillain named after a bug.
Bumblebee? Or no?
That's a transformer.
Oh yeah.
Yellow Jacket.
Yellow Jacket. Two away from tying, 3 away from winning.
Scorpion.
Who?
Scorpion.
Orbian.
Scorpion.
Who's that?
Someone from Marvel, I think.
Okay. Well, I'll take your word. I believe you're going to be honest with me here. What kind of a bug is an Orbian?
Scorpion.
Scorpion. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm old and I'm hard of hearing. See all this gray hair here? I'm old. Okay, that's 7. One more ties the record. Come on, guys. Think. One more ties the record. You guys aren't going to let the par class beat you, are you? You're birdies.
Come on.
Oh, you can't tie it. You can't look it up on the internet now.
No, I'm not.
You're at 7. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
The tick. Oh,
The
human
tick.
fly.
The tick. Wait, who else?
The human fly.
The human fly. Is that a superhero? Or is that a movie?
Superhero. Human fly.
The fly's a superhero. Okay.
No,
All right, you got
human fly.
who?
It's the human fly.
The human fly. Okay. So you guys got 9. You're now the leading class. You got one more. Who?
Green Hornet.
Green Hornet. 10. 10. All right. Birdie class has 10. You guys are in the lead. We'll see if Eagle can beat you tomorrow. If not, you guys are the smartest class in the history of superhero naming and superhero naming. Okay, awesome. So now let's go to the next trivia question. Now this is going to be the easiest one. What are these dents in a golf ball called?
Holes. Dents.
No.
Grooves.
Dimples.
Dimples. I don't know if that's really a dimple, but you know, it's a dent. So
I know,
dimples. So dimples, there's dimples on a golf ball. Does anybody know the average amount of dimples that are on a golf ball?
50.
Way more.
30. 100.
More.
150.
562.
300.
More than
400.
more than 300.
400.
More than 400.
1,000.
Less than 500, more than 400.
450.
A little bit less.
440.
45.
A little bit less.
432.
432. 432 is the winning question. Now, what is the purpose of a dimple? What does that help a golf ball do?
Not beat up the turf? I don't know.
Grip.
Okay. So, what?
Grip.
Okay. Well, let's learn a little something here. We're going to get into the scientific aspects of a golf ball and what the dimple does. Now, we all know, and we've talked about, golf started a long time ago. So, right here, we've got,
Oh my gosh.
see this right here? This is a wooden ball. This is around the 1400. 1400. This thing was made of wood, no dimples. And this ball was basically meant to roll along the ground. It wasn't going to go in the air very far. So a little bit later, like this was kind of hard. And they're like, this is kind of rough to hit. So now let's go and let's get a little crazy. We're going to take this right here, which is called a feathery. So this is basically established in about 1618. Long time ago still. They took 2 pieces of leather, 2 straps. They soaked it in water. They sewed it together, and then they left a little hole. And inside that hole, they stuffed a bunch of goose feathers, hence the name feathery. So they, as tight as they could get all these feathers jammed in there, and then they would sew it completely up. And then the leather would dry. And when leather dries, it shrinks. So now that it shrunk, it made this tight ball that they could whack around. Not too bad, but once again, not the greatest thing in the world. A little bit later, though, because what happens when the ground is wet or it rains? And guess what? It rains a lot in Scotland. It rains a lot. So now they come up with, in 1848, it's called the gutta percha. Kind of a weird name, but the gutta percha. And this was made from the sap of a tree, kind of like a rubber tree. And they formed a ball again. Now, once again, you hit the ball and it rolls along the ground. It really didn't get up in the air, but after a while, it started getting nicks and cuts and dings in the cover of it. And the more that happened, the more the ball would fly up in the air and stay in the air. So the purpose of the dimples on a golf ball is to get it airborne and help it stay in the air. Pretty neat, in my opinion. So
The next one.
the next one, I'm going to try to zoom in here a little bit so you can see all the little lines in that. So this was the hammered gutta. So the hammered gutta all of a sudden had a lot more lines and stuff. So the wind would hit it and it would cause it to spin up in the air so it would go farther. So if you were the first person that came out with this, next thing you know, you're hitting it 40 yards past all your opponents. You probably got a good chance of beating them. So the next thing, so that was 1860, the hammered gutta. Then the mesh gutta came out. This is kind of even cooler looking. You can see the pattern that they got in that one. And this one started staying in the air even longer, going farther. So then they started playing around with how they were going to dent the ball or do anything. So the last one here is the brambled gutta. So this one had dimples, but the dimples actually went outwards instead of inwards. So it took engineers to come up with this stuff. So these are smart, scientific-minded people who would go out there and they would do different designs of dimples in the golf balls. There was a company called Dunlop, which Dunlop makes tires. But they also would take the rubber thing and they put different dimple patterns. And the balls would fly higher, they may fly lower. Some had big dimples on them, some had small dimples, some had different patterns of dimples. So it took a lot of engineering to figure out which pattern was going to help the golf ball fly the farthest and what was the makeup. Back when I started playing, they was mostly had balls that were wound. And by wound, they would take a small ball, and around that ball, they would wind rubber bands. It's like one big giant rubber band, and they would wind this thing up, and then they would put a cover on it. So if you cut that cover off, you could unwind the golf ball into a big old pile of rubber bands with a center ball in the middle. It's kind of interesting. And, you know, everybody in my day and age grew up, and we'd always cut a golf ball in half just to see what was going to happen. It's kind of cool, one of those things. But nowadays, they have different layers of golf balls. So there's a center core. There's the mantle, kind of like the earth. Then there's another layer, and then the crust, which is actually the cover. So based on how they adjust that, the different layers can make the golf ball go farther or a little bit less, or spin more, spin less. But the engineering over the years of the golf ball has been pretty remarkable. And that's why guys nowadays hit the ball well over 300 yards on an average basis. When I started playing back in 1980, essentially 89, end of 88, first of 89, your average tour player probably hit a 7-iron 155 to 165 yards. Nowadays, the guys on tour, some of these people hit 7-irons 195 yards. That's a long way for a 7-iron. Matter of fact, Matthew McDougall, who's a participant at the first tee, he's an ace level participant. I sat there and watched him one day hit 7-iron 195 yards. That's incredible. That's farther than maybe some of you guys can hit a driver, which is pretty far. So make sure that you understand that right there is like the technology is helping you play golf better. But it's up to you to go out and start experimenting on what's going to help you hit the ball farther and straighter. And that's up to you. Once again, be honest with yourself. And if you don't like where you're at right now, keep practicing and working hard at it. And if you have any questions, come ask me or one of the other coaches, and hopefully we can help you play this game even better. So play my game, the hide and seek putting. It's a game we're going to play in class, I guarantee. But you can play it at home at any point in time. Does anybody have any questions for me? Page 28 in your yardage book is the page I'm talking about, page 28. Look it up and start going down and figuring out why you do what you do.